So when I was in medical school,
Oh.
right, one of my favorite GI teachers was this guy named Dr. Rao, who you know,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I remember a lecture one day, and he was so passionate about this. He started talking about this Bristol stool chart. And the Bristol stool chart, and you're going to explain it to us, but it's basically like what your poop can look like, right? What color it is, the shape of it, you know, all of those things combined. And he had like a laminated card of the colors of the shape and just the science that he brought into looking at shit was just crazy to me. And I absolutely loved it, and I will never forget it. But tell me about it. Tell me like how you use this chart.
Okay, first, for those of you who don't know, the Bristol stool chart is a chart that scales poop from 1 to 7. 1 and 2 being on the constipated side. 3 and 4 we'll talk about is on the normal side. 5, 6, and 7 on the more loose or diarrhea side. I love to talk about the Bristol stool chart in forms of candy because when you come to my clinic, I want you to describe your poop based on foods because it's the easiest way to talk about it, right? Do your stools look like milk duds, right? If it's coming out looking like rabbit pellets or milk duds, it's likely a Bristol stool type 1, right? Because there's not enough water to allow those little pellets to congeal and make a nice looking what we call a Snickers bar, okay? I want everyone to poop a Snickers bar every day, okay? That's your Bristol stool form. A little bit less than that, if they are, formed milk duds and it looks like an old Babe Ruth bar, that is a Bristol stool type 2. Okay. And if it's a little bit more formed than that, 3. But again, you're trying to get to the gold standard, the Snickers bar, right? The smooth, it's got edges. It's, you can see the beginning and the end of it. It's perfect. Okay?
So the Snickers bar. So like when you're sitting on the toilet, you're going to the bathroom. Sometimes if it's, I don't know if this is a Snickers bar or not, but it'll like break off and you're like mad because you have to like spend a lot of time wiping your butt, right? When that happens, is that normal or is that not normal? It shouldn't break off like that.
So if it breaks off, it might be on the softer side, but because usually those clumps should stay together, right?
Yeah.
Until it hits the toilet. And in case it should stay there. But if it breaks off immediately after hitting the toilet, it likely has too much water in it and might be a Bristol stool 5, 6, or 7.
Yeah, see,
it's getting towards mush and oatmeal.
Sometimes for me, like I feel like the perfect one is like sometimes it just slides right on out. It's like kersploosh, and it like hits that water, and it goes straight through it. It doesn't even splash up on you. And
correct.
You probably don't even really have to wipe yourself,
100%.
but you do because you're polite. You know?
But that is the gold standard. You want every day to be a slide on out.
The slide on out.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
So, and that's a 4. So a 4 is a slide on out, perfect dive, no splash,
correct.
Olympic 10s across the board.
And you feel empty afterwards.
And you, okay. All right.
Right? That's the big thing, right? Not only did you have a Snicker bar come out, but it left you feeling empty.
Okay. All right. And so then after the Snicker bar, you've got what?
So after the Snicker bar, you've got clumps that are too loose. They've got too much water that was not absorbed by the colon. So they're, softer pieces. They're like blobs. Then you're getting towards like oatmeal and then like straight water, right? That's the Bristol stool type 7, which is diarrhea.
Right. Now, just as a general rule for, let's say, parents, when should you be worried if your kid is having too much loose stool? Like how long do you give it before they probably should be medically evaluated?
It depends. It depends on what your child has eaten. If they just had, street food or, poorly cooked meat, that may be, a gastroenteritis infection, right? And so you want to kind of just let it run out. And as long as they're not having, major fevers or chills and things like that, you can kind of just let it run its course. And that's for children, but even for adults, right? If you're having loose stools, again, it's either because you have stress-induced IBS or you may have a food-induced gastroenteritis that's making the transit of the poop faster and making it come out looking like water, right? And so only if it's associated with alarm symptoms like the fevers, the chills, feeling badly, having severe abdominal pain, do you get worried that warrants an evaluation.
Now, I'm not a guy that always likes to talk about color, but stool has a certain color, and there's also a little bit of color on this chart. Tell me about the different colors of stool and what they could potentially mean.
Yeah, totally. So you want your poop to look nice and brown, so yellowish brown, okay? That's your gold standard, right?
Like this chair?
Yeah, a little bit darker than this. Okay, a little bit darker than this. So you want that to be your gold standard, okay? And if it's got red in it or a red on it, that's a bad side. Red in it means that there is bleeding from your colon, like the walls of the colon, and you should be concerned that there may be inflammation. If there's poop and blood on it, it could be that there's hemorrhoids or something else that's attaching blood cells onto the top of the poop, but the poop itself is normal. If the poop is more green, it may be bile, which is a liquid that's formed in the gut, or it could be green food coloring. If the stool is very pale or clay colored or kind of looks like, like the old pastel stuff that we used to play with as kids, that means there's maybe a blockage in your liver or gallbladder and the biliary ducts, and that's preventing the pigment, because pigment of poop comes from bile. Okay. And so there's something called stercobilin, and that is what actually gives pigment to poop in itself. And that
And
comes
that's a
from
molecule you're saying, like
yes,
stercobilin. Okay.
yes. And so that is what gives color to poop itself. And so that comes from red blood cell and biliary breakdown. And if there's a blockage in your biliary tract, you can get pale poops. Okay. If you get black tarry poops, that's also a problem, because that means that you could be having a bleed somewhere in your digestive tract, specifically somewhere higher up, maybe the stomach, maybe the small intestine. And the reason why it's black is it's had some time to get digested through, and it's, taking its time to transverse, rather than being bright and red, where it means that it's coming from likely somewhere lower down.